My name is Seyn or Anseno, and I did some recordings with Joe Friendly before. This will have a different flavor. I had mentioned the ideas before about user interface or two different user interface devices, input devices, so to speak. But they hopefully will be instrumental in the creation of a better user interface for computers overall. So I have some of the ideas, and some other ideas may be needed to come up with a different, maybe three-dimensional, four-dimensional, whatever user interface. And when I mention input devices, I'm talking about keyboard replacements that also have three-dimensionality at least, and maybe a fourth dimension. One will be a keyboard substitute, so some kind of a unit that incorporates two trackballs and user-definable keys. This is just one more. Here's a primitive machine which served me well at some point. It's a sub-notebook, whatever. A friend of mine, Anthony Katsaras, gave me a bunch of machines. This is one of them. Cracked here and there, but it has some sentimental value to somebody, I hope. It will be a museum piece one day. What I'm trying to do is just yet another attempt to surpass the QWERTY keyboard, which shouldn't be that difficult anyway. Many other people made attempts and approached things the right way, maybe. One of them is called a Maltron keyboard, I guess. Anyway, I'm not borrowing from anybody. I'm just saying that there have been other people who dared to challenge a well-established standard. One reason why I'm maybe bolder than some others is that I do hope to make things easier for people who have only one hand, or people who are missing some fingers, or people who have 12 fingers. Why not? So one idea behind the proposals, let's say, is that people should get keyboards depending on the size of their hands and the presence or absence of their fingers. So custom made, this means more expensive than the usual cheap keyboards, but preferably more functional. And one thing that I incorporate into the idea, which is lacking in the other designs, is two trackballs, possibly to be controlled by the palm or whatever. So that also is user definable. And one other proposal is that the two halves of the keyboard, assuming that the person does have two hands, should be separable. So taking a break, a person should be able to move different hands in different ways. I'm assuming this may be good for the posture as well, but I don't know. Research has to be done. People have to volunteer to see how much strain they can take, etc. But another, let's say, significant difference is that the keys should be user-definable. And one way to make things easier would probably be to come up with LCD screens, so to speak, on the keys themselves, if need be, and certainly different sets of lights. So when you switch from one kind of a layout to another, you do have some input from some feedback from the keyboard, saying, okay, now you're in the numeric key, or you're typing in Chinese or Hindi or whatever. I definitely do want to support several dozen different alphabets and make it easier for people to switch from one to the other, including things that move in different directions. So you can switch between Hebrew and English, blah blah, switching right to left, left to right, etc. But one way in which somebody can surpass, let's say, or outperform existing keyboards is that you reduce the number of keys, thus allowing the fingers to move in a smaller area, but increasing the number of possibilities by means of keys that can be pressed at the same time. And the most important thing for me is to increase the number of keys that the thumbs can press, and some of them can be combined. So presently In all this overcrowded keyboard, there's only one key that the thumb is supposed to touch. Only one thumb, not even two. So that's a poverty that we can go beyond, so to speak. And if we have 3 or 4 different keys, maybe with 2 different pieces each for each thumb, we can have a lot of different combinations. So one can say, okay, let's say similar to caps lock or control or alt, you can have keys that say, okay, it's the numeric keypad now, or by means of a combination you say, okay, I switch to Chinese now, etc. So the rest of the fingers don't have as much travel. With the present layout, one serious problem is that the fingers are supposed to go in this direction, left hand goes this way, the right hand similar. So it doesn't make sense. The way in which the keys are, let's say, assigned and sculpted basically goes back to the mechanical problems that the original manual keyboards had, which the present electronic keyboards do not have. There's no possibility of jamming the keys physically, so there's no reason why this kind of a layout has to be maintained. So one thing that we can accomplish is to eliminate the numeric row, increase the number of, let's say, numeric plus mathematical signs that you can create or generate using combinations, and increase the number of punctuation possibilities. Some of these ideas, I hope, will feed into larger proposals for an artificial language, a new artificial language. So in this new artificial language, there may be scores of punctuation marks. Let's say none of them trying to perform more than one function, which is one problem we have with the existing punctuation marks. None of them mistakable for anything else. So things like that. And the one function that the punctuation marks may provide is to enable, let's say, computers or artificial intelligence devices to create tree structures, semantic tree structures out of, let's say, linear sentences that have the punctuation marks. So somewhat analogous to, let's say, some mathematical formulas where the brackets mean certain things, and you can open up the brackets, or you can multiply things inside the brackets in a certain order, etc. You can actually do things linear, but they may end up giving you one option of a semantic tree structure. So okay, this is the, let's say, subject, this is the object, this is the verb, etc. In addition to many other things. So we can be clearer in terms of what we are trying to convey, and at the same time we can communicate with devices in a clearer way, so that things are not mistaken, etc. So part of what I need to accomplish, I see, we're not simply trying to replace existing keyboards, but maybe make room for new languages as well. And at the same time, of course, working with existing languages side by side, switching between different things. And another thing would be to enable people to create musical notes, either as markings or actual musical sounds or background effects using these regular keyboards. So they can be substitutes for certain musical instruments, keyboard instruments. So that's one separable thing with 2 trackballs, Y2. That way you get the possibility of 4 dimensions, 2 dimensions each. So one can be timed. That may be one way of undoing things several steps back, or depending on the application, you may do different layers of, let's say, topographic maps, etc., or data maps. So that's one idea. And once again, if people are missing certain fingers, they can say, okay, I can't do those, so I'm going to assign those keys to the other hand, blah, blah, and I'm going to reach them using certain combos. Fine. And another reasoning behind a project like this is that people can type it in individual ways, and the devices should be able to use these differences as some kind of a recognition, so that instead of just typing a password and entering some sensitive area in your hard drive, whatever, you should be able to prove to the computer that yes, you are the typist because you type at a certain speed, you type with certain shortcuts, and some fingers may be faster than others, etc. So the individuality does count. In this idea, in this set of proposals for a keyboard alternative and in the existing ones, it doesn't matter with what finger you're touching something, as long as you make the contact, it produces the desired effect, which may be good, it may be bad. This means that you can type if need be, if you're missing something, you can type using a pen, pencil, you can do it with your nose if you can. But with another proposal, I changed that, and instead of a keyboard, I offer a wearable kind of keyboard, or something like a special glove. And here, for various reasons, there may be, let's say, advantages and disadvantages. One disadvantage would, of course, be that you lose the sensitivity that you may need for other things. I mean, you're just using your fingers to type. But obviously, some of the advantages may be that you may be underwater, where a keyboard would not be as good, and you may be concerned about heat. So if you're in Antarctica, that's fine. You would be wearing gloves anyway, or on a mountaintop or whatever. Or a fireman can wear gloves like these to communicate with each other. And here you can incorporate an LCD screen that you wear on your helmet or something, or on your forehead. It can be flexible. Luckily at this point there are flexible screens. So again, using combinations, you can let's say end up access to a larger set of characters using, in this case, no keys at all. You're just using your fingers. Now how do we get there? Each individual phalanx, and these are called phalanx, or phalanges is the plural. We have 14 in each hand, assuming if you're missing, you have less, but anyhow, 14. And if you touch these with any one of the other fingertips, 5 times 14 is 70. So this is not bad. I mean, if you do it 2 ways, you already exceed the existing 101 keys or less on the keyboard anyway.